Hi guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Steve Hall, and I am with my buddy over there who looks like Mario or Luigi, but it's actually Pascal. How you doing, Pascal?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I've been sent some interesting pictures from actors and musicians who also got a mustache.
Oh.
And I collected a couple of pictures and I wanted to post it on Instagram over the next couple of days. Like, who am I? Who am I actually looking like?
It's funny. Because do they have Movember in Germany? Like,
yeah.
Oh, they do. Are you getting sponsored? Because if you're not,
No.
we need to start getting you started because it's almost the end.
Yeah, totally. So I've actually done that 2 years ago when I was working at that CrossFit box, because we then did it like all the males there, and we collected, I think it was 1,500 euros, which is not
Nice.
which is quite a decent amount, I would say, because people, I mean, how much are they giving you? Like $5 or
20
so.
euros, yeah.
Right. So, we collected a decent amount, and however, I don't know where we gave that to.
Hopefully to the charity.
Yeah, I don't know.
I did it once, and well, the way you're meant to do it is like completely shave everything and then start the month fresh.
Yeah.
Which you could probably do and have a decent moustache by the end.
Yeah.
But when I did this, I basically had a pathetic, like just barely anything, and I got the piss ripped out of me. And it really makes me sad because that shouldn't happen. It's just charity. Like, people should encourage people to do it. And even like females, I think, can buy like fake moustaches and they can like get involved. But it's too late now for me to try and do anything. But I had thought of trying to promote some Movember thing and get the audience to put in submissions for like, I don't know what we could do, because I can't, like, you can see my moustache is just pathetic. I can't grow a moustache at all.
Mine,
You can.
I just started growing that one at, I don't know, 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. Not that long time ago, because Katie always said that I should leave my mustache, and I always forgot about it when I was shaving myself. But this time around, I just thought, yeah, okay, let's do that. And ever since then, it is there.
Yeah, I just have like a really thin bit of hair, whereas you have like a proper brush. But I'm happy I can grow a beard. But yeah.
I mean, I really look like, first and foremost, 5 to 10 years older. And like, I don't know, that might be a little bit superficial, but like a typical American dad in some kind of suburb or something.
Or like, I don't know, what is it? Like is it 70s or 80s? Like that sort of look.
Yeah. So one of my clients actually said that I'm looking like a 70s porn star.
That's what I was thinking. That was in my head.
Especially with that one dress where I went out with a shirt on, like Hawaiian shirt with flowers on. I have to admit it myself, because I then recorded a check-in for him in that dress with glasses on and stuff like that. And it could easily be either a porn star or a drug dealer in Miami in the 70s or a movie producer or everything of that kind.
How long is it sticking around?
I have no idea.
Until you just get fed up.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, once again, another look for our diaries, basically, for the Improvement Season podcast diaries, because, I mean, we are changing looks every time. And just looking back, the transformation just of our faces over the time span is always like so funny. And this time around now, with a mustache.
I'm tempted, I'm so scared to remove my beard. Like, it just scares me to think of removing it. I just feel like I'd lose a part of me.
I think it looks really good, like the way it is right now.
I appreciate that. It's funny, I was thinking, I don't know where it came into my head. It was like, women have like makeup and all this stuff to put on their face. I was like, actually, like having a well-groomed beard and like doing your hair, it's like our version of makeup. I know women do that as well, but like, I always feel so much better. Like, I recently got my haircut. I was like, I feel so much better about myself just having that nice haircut. And I know you've had your haircut recently as well, haven't you?
Yeah, like was it yesterday? No, 2 days ago. And mate, it's like you said to me or told me once offline, like, you should actually get that done every third or fourth week, because after that, it just looks like you've never done anything.
Yeah. Like, it's, I don't know how much it costs for you, but I think it's less than like 15 quid when I go and get my haircut. I don't go anywhere fancy.
Oh no, for me it's
is it fancy?
Yeah, no, it's not that fancy, but the guy where I'm always getting my haircut, I've been with him since I think 6 years or so.
Oh wow, okay, so
or
you've got
even
a
longer.
relationship.
So he's also a friend of mine, and he's doing a fantastic job. And I'm too vain when it comes to my haircut and stuff. And in the past, I was always disappointed. So I know that I get a good job there. So why not invest a little bit of money, which is kind of what it can translate over to coaching as well, right?
Yes.
You can either try to find a deal. Be lucky with that, right? Maybe you will find a store or a coach in that regard that is cheap and is doing a great job. But the likelihood of you getting burned and just wasting your money is exponentially higher.
It's funny you say that because I am so like, it's so hit or miss whether I get a good haircut. I go to the same place, but you just go whoever's available. Sometimes they have a good day, sometimes they have a bad day. And I'm just like... but I don't want to have to go somewhere and book in and like, I don't know. I was going somewhere and it was a little bit more expensive. You had to book in. It was okay, but the guy took like an hour. And I was just like, my haircuts normally take like 20 minutes.
Mate, what I really despise is just the difference between males and females. And this is something I brought up in the show a couple of times, that I despise something like chauvinism. And especially when it comes to products or something like a haircut. The same haircut would cost like double the amount for females. It's the same for razors, for example.
Yes.
Razor products is just so much more expensive for females than it is for males, only because it's pink. It is insane to me, and there are so many other products where it's like that. And once again, I mean, when it comes to just cutting your hair, mine is already expensive, but I think that when Katie just wants to kind of get the same work done, would be like 80 to 100 quid.
Yeah. And if Charlotte gets hers all like coloured and everything, it's like a whole event, but it's way less frequent than I get mine. I try and get mine like, I used to do it every deload, but I'm like every 2 weeks is probably good because I can just, the great thing with the place I go is like, it's just my walk to the supermarket at, well, one of the ones I go to on the weekend, and I walk back and I'm just like, oh, I'll get my haircut. But anyway, enough on haircuts. Hopefully, I have no idea. That might have been in completely like, people are just like, what talking the fuck,
about
guys?
8 minutes about that.
But this is male grooming. It's part of your physique preparation.
Yeah, and someone just said that I should do a handbook on how to grow a proper mustache or a beard in general. I think you heard it as well in the past, right? So when we are talking about that and sharing a little bit of our experiences and secrets, maybe there's some value in that as well. I don't know, for some.
It's fun. Actually, I can remember vividly as a growing boy, I was like, for Christmas, I can vividly remember for Christmas thinking, I want to be able to grow a beard. For years, like, that was my, like, I was just like, please, just let me grow a beard. I don't care about anything else.
And one night, Santa came into your room and gave you a beard.
Painted on this beard.
And a dick on your face.
I was a bad boy. Actually, this relates, I think, to one of the questions that came through. You started talking about, and I know we're skipping over our weeks, but just because it came up and we might be able to go back and go, actually, maybe we should hold off. This is what I'm just thinking. One of the questions that came through was, how much do we charge for coaching? And that's been something that's been asked to me quite a few times recently, so I do want to cover it. So maybe we just think about covering it, because you kind of covered it. You start talking about it like you go and spend a bit more, you get a better haircut. If you spend less, you're risking it a little bit. So anyway, so how's your week been, Pascal, before we get into those questions?
So I would just cover that real briefly. Has been my overreaching week. Everything is a little bit stressful at the moment, a little bit up in the air, because I just come to realize that it may be more than I expected to, which was to be expected, right? I mean, it wasn't like I was illusional about the outcome or what is about to come, but right now trying to manage everything at the same time and not really having a clear structure in place it's a little bit hard and a little bit overwhelming, and no one is waiting for you, especially at a university. The business is not waiting. Everything is still moving forward. And then trying to actually catch up with everything is really, really super hard, right? And last week, I already talked a little bit about the injuries that are just around and nagging me. What can you do, right? I mean, it is a little bit frustrating. I will get that checked out, especially because I've never talked about that, but a couple of weeks back, I was pretty ill, just a couple of times after each other, right? Where I was just lying in bed the entire day, a little bit feverish and stuff like that. And that one day I then went to the doctor, which is my mother-in-law. I would say mother-in-law, right? Even though that we are not engaged or something. Went to her and we did an ECG, but just a short-term ECG. And then she saw some arrhythmias. And she said that we need to get that checked out for a long ECG in the future, right? And I don't know what I wanted to talk about in that regard. But yeah, that is going on as well right now. Oh yeah, now I know. Next week, my maintenance or deload is about to start. And then after that, the primer phase. And I wanted to wait with going to the doctor to check things out on with my back, for example, with the hip, when I'm in a less stressful state. And also the same goes for the heart, because it doesn't really make sense to go to the doctor when you are already super stressed because of external factors. And also then in your overreaching, it doesn't really make sense to then go to the doctor and get your heart checked, right? So this is what I'm going to do, like, in the next couple of days and weeks. And that is basically what was going on for me. But how about yourself, mate?
I guess, well, just to reflect on that, I think that's really important what you said there in terms of getting it checked during a lower stress time, because especially now more people are getting like their blood work done and things. You see them getting it done, like if you get it done like the day after your comp prep, it's not going to look good. Don't expect it to look good. You do need to get it in somewhat of a stable position, like you said.
Can I say something on that behalf? Because Chris Elkins, many may know him from Instagram, for example, right? He is part of Team 3MJ. I think he was coach or is coached
Chris Barricott coaches him.
No, Chris Barricott. Okay, but he's still in the group of Team 3MJ. Okay. So he posted his blood work right from after his show, which came out to be awful.
Yeah.
Awful. And then you look at his physique and you wouldn't never expect that. It's just another data point in the gathering of, I would say, like case studies, right? Just goes to show that momentary readings of your blood work, hormone levels, all that kind of stuff doesn't tell you much. Maybe it is reflective on what is going on right now, but it doesn't really tell you whether you are healthy or not, right? Sure, this is to be expected that your hormone levels are out of whack when you are in a contest prep, right? But so many people, it is like that. They come to us maybe or post it in the group asking for, I have secondary hypogonadism, so i.e. low testosterone levels, my libido isn't present. Yeah, no shit, because you've been in a deficit for like the last 6 months and you are training hard and all that kind of stuff, right? So it just I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that a figure like him posting that is so important and he can reach so many people with that. And I think it's great that he did that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, I looked at it and I was like, well, duh. And then but I was like, actually, when you put it like that he's reaching a way wider audience than people like us. He's reaching people that just see bodybuilders shredded and they see him looking amazing and think everything's hunky-dory. Whereas we obviously are like, well, no shit, your blood work's terrible, because we realize that, but a lot of people might not. So yeah, actually, in hindsight, when you say that, yeah, it is great that he shares that. And it's good to see, particularly him, because I think he has a huge reach and he has very good, like, just baseline genetics in terms of how he looks. He looks very good year round. So it's nice to see that, like, he's sharing the dark side of the sport as well, potentially there.
Absolutely.
So yeah, for me, I'm in my overreaching week as well. I've actually managed to span this mesocycle out to a 5th week, which actually started today. I wasn't actually expecting to. I was kind of preparing myself for an extra rest day today, but like I said to you earlier, I was just weirdly felt very kind of good to go, and I was just like, why not? Just like, why would I don't need that extra rest day. It might throw me off. I very much believe like in routine and like habits, and I think if I had that rest day, maybe it just would have thrown my mesocycle off, and I don't know, just made me feel weird and worse. So I actually just did my AM session of deadlifts and more deadlifts, and that went pretty well. Still managed to overload a little bit in terms of weight on the bar. Reps pretty much matched, and I added a single set to my Romanian deadlifts, which I think it's funny. People in that gym who see me train must like look at me in my final week and think of like, what's wrong with him this week? Because I'm just like that. This is the only week where I properly will go like make noises and like get at it a little bit. Whereas in weeks before it, I'm more chilled out for the most part, which I think is a good thing. It's like it just allows me to get less fatigued overall from the lifting. But yeah, it's going really well. I kind of. The only thing I've had that is potentially like negative is the slight straining to my neck, which isn't as bad as last week when we checked in. Everything else is going pretty smoothly. I can't really complain. I think scale weight is going up nicely. I'm probably going to finish up around close to 190 pounds, which makes kind of sense. Finish the Minicut at about 185 pounds over the 5 weeks, gaining about a pound per week, but on average, but whilst there will still have been like a few pounds due to glycogen and water. So it's a decent amount. And then, yeah, it's just about kind of deloading next week. And I've just set myself into a cycle of how I planned it in my head was I'd have Sundays as a rest day, then Mondays would be deadlift day. But because after my mini cut, I kind of halved my deload because I didn't feel like I needed the entire deload. And actually looking at it, I didn't. I started deadlifts like on a Thursday. So now I want that rest day on a Sunday, but it just doesn't make like, so I have it before my squat day, which helps my squats tremendously. But really, I think having it between my horizontal pull and my deadlift day probably makes more sense just because of the musculature that's all kind of fatigued there. It hasn't held me back though. It's just probably not the ideal setup. So I don't know. I'll probably have to manipulate something there. I'm still not entirely convinced by deadlifts, but I'm just keeping them in for a time being. I literally, I don't know how I do more than like 3 sets. just after the 2 sets, I'm like whammed. And then 3 sets, I'm just like blown out my ass. They just beat you up like nothing else. But I mean, honestly, can't complain. Everything's going really smoothly, really nice. I haven't really I've been really lucky that there's not really been anything on the last few weeks. I'm excited for our meetup on the 1st of December.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be really cool. So we're having
1 week to go, mate.
Yeah, 1 week this Saturday.
Crazy.
I'm well excited for it.
Yeah.
So Broderick will be in town, and who I haven't spoken to in ages now. He was meant to be on the podcast a few times, but it didn't quite work out. I think he doesn't like me anymore. I don't know. He's fed up of talking. Drugs. Yeah.
As soon as you're jumping on the gear, he starts to like you again.
He probably would. So yeah, that's really everything that's going over on my end. Nothing else to say. It's really good. Very happy.
Cool.
We can hear you go.
He's complaining. He wants to get in. So yeah, shall we dive into the questions then?
Yeah. So I've got them up. I don't know if you've got them up, but it's probably my turn. My turn to talk through all of them.
You know how to do it this time, right?
Yeah, I've got
Click
it right.
on individual and then...
So the first one, I don't think we covered this one, is from Virag. That's a strange name.
Virag.
Yeah, Virag. Miss Virag. So it's a female, obviously.
Mysterious.
They have quite a long question. So first of all, thanks for answering my question on Instagram. Either of our pleasure. It might be, I don't know who it was. I'm really bad with names. Bug me enough and I'll realise and I'll start clicking. It'll start clicking. They said, my next one would be, when building my program, how should I tweak the weight/reps depending on where an exercise sits in a given day session? For example, if I do a squat in mesocycle 1 as the first exercise and then do squats again in mesocycle 2, but it's the second or third exercise, it's highly likely I won't be able to lift as heavy. Yeah. Any recommendations? Thanks. And they said, and by the way, thanks for everything. The podcast is great. I love the Improvement Season 2. I started listening to it when it was like 50 episodes were available. I went back to the beginning and listened all the way from episode 1. It's like a TV series.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hey, do you have any kind of thoughts immediately?
I have a really boring, probably simple answer.
Yeah, go ahead. I think because I'm just trying to think of any scenario and my answer, basically.
See, I think taking it for what it is, you have to respect the fact that, yes, if you're doing it first versus third, you're going to be, if you're doing it third versus first, you're going to be more fatigued. And a really great skill to develop is learning how to work with relative intensities. So if you do that, then whether or not it's first or third, you're still working to a relative intensity. So you pick a weight that allows you to sit within maybe a repetition range and you're good, you're golden. Now, if you're not using relative intensities, it might be a time to start learning it because this it automatically regulates this sort of problem. But yeah, you're completely right. I just say they're completely right in that if they're doing it as their third exercise, they're going to be fatigued after whatever became before it. So they're not going to be able to perform as well as what they usually would. And this is why when you're doing you can even prioritize muscle groups by doing it first. That's my simple answer is use relative intensities, get good at those, and then you'll be able to work with it. A simple kind of idea is to think maybe just start off with 10% less than what you normally would do if the repetitions are the same, and start off with 10% less load and see how you get on.
No, absolutely. Learn to implement RP or RER, whatever you want to call them. And it is kind of similar to a question I had from one of my clients recently, that they are traveling and always on the road, always needing to train or work out at a different gym. And the machines are always different, right? Different mechanics. Thus, they can't use the same load each and every single week. But it doesn't really matter that much because the body doesn't know whether you are taking 30 kilograms or 35. It just feels it just needs to produce force adequately enough to actually get the job done. And by that, you want to learn to just go by feel, even if that sounds a little bit bro-ish, but it falls back to what you've been just saying about relative intensity, because the body just senses a kind of, what's it called? A kind of a pressure. No, that's the wrong word. Some kind of resistance. It just needs to then overcome with actually motor unit recruitment and actually some force output. And then in the end, it doesn't matter what kind of weight you moved on paper, but just the amount of work you actually have done. I hope that made sense. I'm not entirely certain, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah, I get it. I think it makes sense. And hopefully that's given them something to think about. And really, it's a simple answer in many ways, so long as they have some understanding of relative intensities. So the next question is from Brandon Hutchins. He has asked, I was wondering what you would do in a situation where you observe someone in a gym doing something dangerous, i.e. horrible form and tons of weight on deadlifts. Would you say nothing or would you say something? And what type of thing would you say, such action would you take? Thanks, guys.
Nothing, really. Simply because who are you to go to that guy and actually first and foremost maybe correct him or approach him with the mindset that he's doing something wrong? Maybe there's an intention behind it. You don't know. Maybe he's doing something sports specific. Hey, you never know, right? I mean, also the personal preference comes into play as well. When someone is enjoying Bosu squats, let them do the Bosu squats. Who am I to then approach him and correct him? Sure, when they are doing something dangerous, like truly dangerous, I would wait. If the person wants your help, he will probably approach you, or will look around like in a helpful manner, like looking truly for desperately for help. But I find it just wrong to just assume that someone is doing something wrong just because you have the impression or perception that something is wrong.
So yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here, but that is just the first thing that is coming to my head.
If someone's doing like shitting dog deadlifts, like round lower back, like getting aggro, properly go for it, proper gym bro, he's got his belt on and he's fucking not bracing into it or anything, the chances that he's going to listen to you are slim to none. If you go and approach him, he's probably going to think you're an absolute asshole and shut your mouth. He might later reflect that, this is me assuming, by the way, but this is what I imagine. He might later reflect on that and think, actually, my lower back really fucking kills, man. Maybe that guy in the gym was onto something. He might, but it might seem selfish, but I'm not willing to put myself in a position where someone's going to show kind of disgust or hatred or unkindness towards me and create tension in a scenario where there is none. I keep myself to myself unless I'm asked. I have been asked before, and I think that's really nice when people ask. I don't think it's very common. I like to think that look like I'm someone who would be open to ask, but you can only make yourself available as possible. And to be honest, if it's up to the PTs in the gym, I think they have the kind of respect probably because they're a PT, they're clearly working there. It's more so up to them. It's not up to you. I just wouldn't approach someone.
And by the way, this is just something from my perspective. Now it comes to something what boils down to the reason why, and you've explained it just well, because when you approach someone and making them aware of a quote unquote mistake, even if you are right with doing that, or if you are right that this is a mistake or that he's potentially going to hurt himself, they aren't susceptible for that. Not in that situation. It is highly unlikely that they will say like, holy shit, yeah, thank you, you are absolutely right, I've never thought about that way, let me try it differently, right? Most of the time people will just be like, shut themselves off and go right into defensive mode, because who are you, right? You're a stranger approaching them, and you are the one who's correcting them. Who are you? What the fuck, right? This is how they actually think then, and this is sometimes not even intentionally, but people are just like protective in that regard. And I'm absolutely certain you know it yourself, and when you really think about it, you maybe can think of a situation where you acted like that as well, where someone approached you and you were immediately like defensive about your actions, right? So yeah, it is. I think it's simply not worth it. And if the person really wants some insight or help, they will seek for it. And if not, approaching them is most of the time a lost battle, I think.
Yeah, I think it's on them, really. It's not on you. So don't take it as something. It's your responsibility. It's funny because you said, I bet people have experienced it. I have. When I was in university and I was lifting in a gym there was like an older guy who came and approached me and said like, you might want to try doing it this way. And I vividly remember, and when I think about that moment, I think that guy was a dick. Reflecting on it and taking a step back, I'm like, that guy was completely right. But I was not in a state where I was receptive to his comments. So I think as a good gym lifter, the best thing we can do is just show a good example. Yeah.
I had it too a couple of times because I'm a fucking asshole when people are approaching me. I really am. Especially when it comes to stuff like that. I'm such a dick.
Brilliant. So the next question is from Emily from Seattle. Hi, Emily from Seattle. I really like that she said where she's from. I don't know why. I just get a bit of it. It's very cool. So she said, what are your thoughts about keto if you're not competing or a professional bodybuilder? I've heard you lose a little bit of strength and explosiveness. So if you were needing to do 1 rep max for a competition, wouldn't it be best for that? But if you have a regular full-time job and work, it wouldn't be best for that, I guess. It wouldn't be best for that. But if you have a full-time job, work out 5 times 6 per week, general fitness, look good, feel good, would the benefits of keto outweigh the negatives, especially for leaning out a bit? She said, thank you, love your podcast. So do you want to run off?
Yeah, I just want to make one thing clear. And when we're talking about keto, and I think that Emily from Seattle is actually talking about low carb diet and not specifically about keto, because keto is primarily only run with fats. So I think 90% even only coming from fat, or 70, correct me if I'm wrong. But
I don't know the
really
definition.
High fat, low protein, low carbohydrates. Right? And this is something I wouldn't advise, of course, because, I mean, call me a bro, but protein is just
got to get your protein, bro.
Super important, right? And I don't think that it is the most optimal scenario to be in when you are a resistance trainee. When we're talking about low carb, however, I think it comes really down to personal preferences. When you don't have the aim to be your absolute best, right? You could always make a case for actually having a lower-ish carbohydrate intake. What that means is absolutely individual dependent, because even in the scientific literature, when you take a look at what low carbohydrate is and you take a look at the studies, it is always kind of unclear, basically, right? One study says it's below 100 grams of carbohydrates. The other study says it's below 50 grams of carbohydrates, right? So it's not even clear there. So it comes down to the fact of, okay, what do we define as low carbohydrate diet, and then also personal preferences, and basically how do you feel with that? If you are feeling great on a day-to-day basis, and also your performance isn't suffering significantly, or maybe it is actually going great, sure thing, go ahead and do that. I think that potentially you may miss out on something. I'm saying potentially because I'm not entirely certain whether you are then in such a scenario. But even if that's something you enjoy doing, and if that's something you can adhere to, and that, I don't know, gives you the most satiation and pleasure in your life, perfect. You're only winning, I think.
Cool. I think, that was really well explained. And I don't really have much else to add. My general perception on keto, and I don't know if this is just me being an idiot, or I think is generally perceived, is like less than 50 grams of carbs per day. I think that's the general, what people from who are just looking at it see. I just say confirm that she's right. If you're kind of really getting after it and you're really want the maximal results, and you're kind of in a position where you really uptake carbohydrates well because you're lean and you're active, then you don't want to drop carbs. You want those in your diet, and they're definitely going to let you perform well. I'd be interested to hear what she would say the benefits of keto are. Like what are the benefits people are feeling of a higher fat approach, apart from kind of maybe satiation, maybe kind of adherence, because it's easy to go high protein, high fat and not have the extra carbohydrates there. But really, when I think about pros of keto, I don't see a huge number in my head, apart from it maybe being easy. So especially for fat loss, and especially for females, females do really well from what I've seen literature and with my clients on carbohydrates. So if she's lean, active, I don't know if there would be that many benefits to outweigh the negatives. That's the only other thing I wanted to add.
Mate, funny enough, because this is what I wanted to end it with asking, why do you want to go down that road? Are there any kind of reasons right now where you don't feel comfortable with yourself, mate? I mean, in the sense of you're not reacting that well to some form of carbohydrates, for example, right? And you're considering going down that road. But if it's more so because of you thinking that it has any kind of advantages for physique composition or so, right? So really ask yourself the question, why do I want to do that? Or why if that's only an experiment, sure, why not? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that your basic point was the most important things, especially for a gen population client who's not super duper serious about it, is adherence and protein and total calorie intake. From there, it's much of a muchness for a lot of the time, so long as performance is being maintained. And then that's a key little sentence, because carbohydrates often are the best tool to maintain that performance. So cool. I think we answered that one nicely. Hope that answers your question, Emily. We have quite a lot of questions. I'm really actually quite happy to see there's so many.
Nice.
So we have another one from Brandon. So maybe we'll skip Brandon's for now, just because we'll get someone different. Sorry, Brandon. So this is from Ilyes. I don't know how I don't know if that's pronounced right. It's
man.
Ilyes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Elias, who has participated at the seminar as well and stuff.
Ah, perfect. Right. So he has asked, do you think that we can have a slower metabolism after a minicut? For example, with a drop of maintenance of 300 calories a day. I have seen a bit of people gaining weight back very quickly after a minicut. Thank you for the answer. Have a great day, basically, is what he said. I can answer this one fairly quickly. So I think we're probably along the same lines. During a minicut, it's 4 to 6 weeks. You shouldn't see metabolic adaptation that severe. It just shouldn't happen. And I think for the most part, the reason you're seeing a quick gain of weight afterwards is because you're replenishing glycogen and water and extra food volume, and probably going back into harder training. And so all of that is leading to actually just a water fluctuation. So what I will say is, I quite often say with clients, like the first 2 weeks of a mini cut, don't take too much notice of it. You're going to probably see quite big drops in water weight. But in the first 2 weeks after a mini cut, you may well see all of that water weight in the first 2 weeks of kind of the mini cut come back. So if you dropped like 6 pounds in the first 2 weeks, you may well gain back like a good 4 pounds of just water, food, glycogen. And that's expected. So I would ignore kind of the first 2 weeks of most phases. I think that covers most of it. I don't think you should see, especially 300 calorie drop in maintenance. No. Maybe a tiny one, but you'd have to be someone who's very responsive to calorie changes.
Yeah, and let's take into consideration the most severe adaptations from a metabolic perspective, and that is up to from 10 to 15% of your basal metabolic rate, and that is after a prolonged cutting phase and losing a significant amount of your weight. And also I have a rule of thumb. So when you are losing about 5 kilograms, I adjust the macros or the total calories by 100 calories up to 200 calories. So let's say you are losing in a mini cut scenario 5 kilograms, which is a lot already in such a short period of time. This in conjunction with the negative adaptations that are potentially happening, like I don't think that 10 to 15% would ever occur in a mini-cut setting unless you're starving yourself, like literally eating nothing at all. I could potentially see that, but then you're also losing more than 5 kilograms, I would say. So in that, with everything in mind and taking that into consideration, I would say, if at all, like 100 kcals or so, max. So
yeah, I think you pointed out a good point there. A good point. You pointed out a good point. Good English there, Steve. So anyway, the good point that you pointed out was the fact that you're actually going to be weighing less at the end of the mini cut. So you may, because your BMR might reduce a little bit. But that's not like adaptations or any slowdown of metabolism. That is just you are a smaller person. But that's probably like you say, like 100 calories or so. The thing I see people doing that worries me is mini cuts are. You're trying to maintain momentum of massing and you're trying to get back into massing immediately. The thing that worries me after mini cuts is that people do them and then they're really scared about edging up their calories. They almost like reverse diet out of this mini cut and they piss away like a whole next mesocycle of not being in a proper surplus, not gaining the muscles they should. So just avoid doing that because I see that happens quite a lot.
No, absolutely.
And that really disrupts momentum. Next question is from Patrick Barney, our man Patrick.
Oh, Patrick.
Whenever I see Barney, I think of the purple dinosaur. Anyway, so sorry, Barney. Do you guys implement warm-up exercises to get a bit of blood into the muscle prior to getting ready for your first exercise for the body part you have trouble connecting with? Or do you recommend people to do so? For example, I'll do lat pull-ins, pull-downs or push-ups prior to my first back or chest movement. Obviously not to fatigue, but like I said, just to get a bit of blood flow there.
Do you want to go ahead, Steve?
I was pointing at you. No, yeah, I can go. So I actually... Pretty much yes. So I don't do this for like legs, but for the most part, actually, when I'm thinking about this question, I normally just warm up and kind of acclimatize sets with that particular exercise in hand. So if I'm doing bench press, I'm doing a general warm up, like for my shoulders and for the rotator cuff and things like this, doing some stretching, dynamic stretching. And then I just get into the exercise and I start off benching the bar, and then I'll put a little bit of load on each time and slowly reduce the number of reps that I'm doing. So it might be like the bar for 10, then it might be like 40 kilos for like 6, and then 60 kilos for 4, and then 80 kilos for 2, and then working set or something along those lines. That's quite rapid jumps, but something along those lines. And that kind of gets my mind-muscle connection there. That's for chest. And I do the same for any legs. So if I was like squatting, I wouldn't go into like the leg extension and feel out the leg extensions and really get my quads going. The only one where I do what Patrick said there and like get a bit of blood flow and really my muscle connection is back. I've always struggled with my back to really get the lats firing. So I like to do some lat prayers or single lat and some lat pull-ins and just some light rowing. Just with the cable machine, I just basically like pull into my lats and just feel them out a little bit, like hold the contraction there. But that's the only one I do it with. Everything else, I just get into my first exercise and start building up into it. I don't know if you have anything different.
No, I mean, unintentionally, I'm doing it as well because it's like you said, I'm warming up. I'm specifically warming up that muscle group, obviously, right? Makes sense. I'm not warming up my legs when our chest day is around. But yeah, then unintentionally, I'm of course trying to focus on my chest while I'm doing the things I'm doing. For example, when I'm training my back or about to train my back, I'm always doing like band pull-aparts, right? And while doing so, I'm trying to actually properly engage my back. So I do it unintentionally, but it's not like that I specifically program something for myself. I have done so with some of my clients, especially the ones who had issues with one side or the other, because I know that some people, same with me, I have more so troubles with engaging my lats on the right side than the left side. And I had a client who actually had some difficulties engaging the left or right side of his pecs and felt like the other side is always working more. And with that, I implemented some warm-up techniques where he is actually getting used to engaging both pecs properly. But other than that, nothing special though.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it can be really helpful in some given scenarios. Like if you do struggle to feel a certain muscle group working and things like that, it can go well. But for me, I think actually when I think about it, it helped my rowing and pulling form just be better in general. I don't think I ever had as good form as I do now, and that's just because now I actually use my lats rather than kind of other muscle groups like my arms taking over, which they always would. But no, cool. Next question is from oh no, we've got another question from Tyson the Ruler.
Oh, Tyson.
So
welcome back, mate.
He has asked, how many sets is too many? Say I start a meso at 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps on squats or barbell bench. By week 4, I'm up to 6 sets. And
this question we covered like last time.
Oh, why is that there then? That's interesting. Okay, right, we've covered this one. So we have, Mohammed was the one. An idea about your prices range. I know you don't like to mention that. So yes, this will be a good question to cover. Maybe our last one.
So, do you want to start?
It sounds like you might want me to. So for me, the reason we don't show our prices on the website is mostly because we want people to come to us and they want coaching for us, not because of the price that we display. I understand that some people have a budget and that's important to them, that it fits their budget. But I will state, and I always say, that we're not out of range of what you'd expect from other people providing similar coaching to us. We're not miles cheaper or miles more expensive. We're very much within that range. And for the most part, we just want people to avoid window shopping. So they're going around checking other people's websites, seeing how much they charge, and they're just picking a coach based on price. We want people to pick us as coaches because they feel like, we're the best fit for them. And that can be identified with the consultation. And the consultation, we charge £20 to ensure that person's committed, and that is refunded if they do sign up. And it's as comprehensive a consult as they really want. So if they want to really get a lot of money out of that £20, like, they can ask lots of questions. They can really make sure we're the right coach for them. Obviously, don't take the piss and sign up for a £20 consultation for coaching when you have no intention of coaching, just want to get all the knowledge, because that would just be obvious and really not a nice thing to be doing. But yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say than that, apart from we say that just because we just want to avoid that person who's coming to us because we fit their budget, rather than they're coming to us because we're actually the right coaches for them. And we believe that the price we charge is very much within reason. And I think all of our clients would agree with that.
No, that was really well put. It was like a sales pitch or so.
I didn't mean it to be.
I have only one thing to add there, and it is I see it with a lot of coaches that they are showing their prices, or they are selling packages which you then directly can buy from there. But we aren't really offering a wide variety of services, because Steve and I are under the opinion that nutrition and training go hand in hand together, and our philosophy is not only giving out a training protocol, giving out a nutritional plan, but actually building a relationship. That is why we are only offering one thing or two things rather, and that is with weekly check-ins, right? And in that regard, we don't necessarily need to just put it up there so that the people have an ability to then compare it to other packages we are offering, because we are only offering these two, which is contest prep and weekly one-on-one, and other coaches presented online, and may then attract people then for that particular service or that package. But it's once again, as Steve alluded already, that we want that the people who are applying for our services are absolutely bought into wanting to work with us. This also ensures that they have done their research, which then even more so strengthens the confirmation that they want to work with us. And also it's good for the applicants themselves, because they have done their research and they know what to expect, kind of.
Yeah, I think you furthered the reasoning behind what we do, is because it's really hard. You can't really look upon our coaching, the price we charge, and then look at someone else, the price they charge in their coaching, because it isn't like comparing one website's t-shirt to another website's t-shirt. You can't compare them like that, because their services, we're people, it's personalized. You want to be bought into. Me and Pascal and Miguel, we all charge the same amount. The prices might change in future, and we're unique in that way. So you really need to be bought into us if you're going to apply for coaching, I think. And if you're not, and there's someone else who you like more, maybe, go to them. So
absolutely
cool.
Fine.
I don't know if we have time for any more questions, or
let's cut it short here.
Okay. Can hear Hugo get upset. He wants his dad. Yeah. Cool, guys. Really appreciate all the questions. It's really nice to see all of those. Again, if you want to get your questions in, please do sign up to that. It has been linked in our description. I never check. I know. I hoped that it was linked there. For the email list.
Oh, yeah. I'm not entirely certain.
Cool. Well, we'll get that in there.
I've never put it there, so if you haven't put it there, then I don't think it is.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, fuck, guys, I'm trying to get on your email list, but I don't know where. Either it will be in there this week, or you can go to our website and you can find it. You'll find it easily over there.
I promise. And I always wanted to do one thing, and that is, it is going to be up here in the corner now.
I love it when people do that and then there's nothing there and you're like, right, good effort. At least this is right at the end so you can find it. So yeah, appreciate all the questions. I will email out again requesting questions. We're through 16. Well, and we skipped a couple. We've got 21. So if we do skip your question, maybe resubmit it, because obviously we're just looking to cover as many different people's questions as possible. You don't want to avoid answering many questions from one person. We're not being kind of mean or anything. So we'll come to it if there's like a scarce number of questions. So guys, thank you much for listening. We will catch you soon. Take care and revive stronger.
Cheers, guys.